Hello everyone, welcome to this 11th show in the Bible Prophecy Masterclass, where we are randomly discussing various themes relative to or taken from the book of the Revelation of Jesus Christ. In today's episode, which is number 41 in our series of studies from this enigmatic book penned by John the Revelator, we will begin to dissect the creature known to God, unaffectionately, as the beast, who is erroneously called the Antichrist in today's modern church circles, as the one who carries the woman, who is the birthplace of the great whore. This beast is the strength of the woman and the source of her authority, as well as the foundation of her reign. Insofar as it is also a play on words, the term beast is also a reference to that person who will be the end times leader of the kingdom known by that name. Whereas the discussion of the great whore is confined to Revelation 17, this beast is first mentioned in the 11th chapter of the Revelation, and the entirety of the 13th chapter is dedicated to his rise and reign. Chapter 16 will show God's destruction of his kingdom, and chapter 19 will show his final defeat, capture, and consignment to the eternal flames of the lake of fire. As was true in our previous lesson, and as will be the case throughout the duration of this study, the text will be Judgment Day, Volume 3, Armageddon Acts of God versus Gods of Earth. The book is written by Mr. Alvin Mitchell. I, Michael, will be your host and narrator. Please join me in a word of prayer that God will, in full accord with his promise, add a blessing to this and every study of his word. The beast. He was, he is not, yet he is. Verse 8. The beast that you saw was, and is not, and will ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth will wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not, and yet is. Verse 9 through 14. Verse 9, and here is the mind having wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, on which the woman sits. Verse 10, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue a short space. Verse 11, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and will go into perdition. Although he is alluded to variously throughout several places in Scripture and known by an assortment of names, the end-times world dictator so detested by God the Almighty is referred to here in the Revelation as the beast, a.k.a. often referred to as the Antichrist by modern churches. Daniel is the first to make his mention, calling him the mouthy little horn, the prince who will destroy the Jerusalem temple and the abomination of desolation, in chapters 7, 9, and 12 respectively. Jesus repeats Daniel's reference in Matthew 24, while Paul called him the son of perdition, per his second epistle to the Thessalonians chapter 2. It is John the Apostle, as revelator, who gives the most revealing description of this eschatological end-times character, first mentioning him in chapter 11, following his resurrection and battle with God's 2 witnesses, who will occasion his death. Chapter 13 of the Revelation is devoted to a broad snapshot of the early days of his rise and reign, after he kills the 2 witnesses in revenge. It is here, in chapter 17, however, it might be argued, where his story begins. That said then, it should be noted, perhaps, that God's use of the term beast to describe what he sees as the epitome and thus the most detestable eschatological enemy and threat to his people is a kind of play on words. The term in the Greek means dangerous wild animal. It is used interchangeably by the Lord to refer to both an end-times kingdom and to the person who will be the leader of that kingdom. That being so, the focus in this context is specifically on the individual who will preside over that kingdom. The language unveiling the idea of the dangerous wild animal, the prince, is a bit tricky, requiring careful handling and much prayer, as has been the case in the handling of this study in its entirety, one might add. The angel told John, "He was, he is not, he will ascend out of the abyss, only to go into perdition. Moreover, those who live on the earth during the time or days of the beast will be awed, as they observe him with great admiration, those whose names are not written in the Lamb's book of life, from the foundation of the world, when they shall see the dangerous wild animal, a thing who was and is not, although he is." Verses 7-8. To further delineate his point to John, the angel makes this teaser of an observation. Here is the mind that has wisdom. The 7 heads that adorn the dangerous wild animal are, in addition to being representative of 7 mountains upon which the woman sits, symbolic of 7 kings as well. Of those kings, 5 have passed on. The 6th is on the throne now, but the 7th has yet to come. When he does arrive, he will only continue for a short while. The dangerous wild animal, who was and is not, is himself an 8th, and is one of the 7, and he is going into perdition. Verses 9, 10, 11. So, who is this dangerous wild animal? First off, it may help to note that the angel's discussion of the beast, who was and is not, who comes out of a bottomless pit, does not begin and end in verse 8 of this chap. 17. It stops only to pick up again in verse 11, rounding out a discussion begun in verse 10, relative to the heads of the crimson beast being representative of kings. The beast of verse 8, the one who was and is not, and yet is himself the 8th of the 7 kings, John was told. Thus, this beast is an individual, a normal human being initially, not to be confused with the crimson-colored beast who carries the woman, which symbolizes the Roman Empire. Although one cannot exist without the other, either can be the center of attention whenever the camera focuses on the term beast. Hence, more specifically, this beast, whatever the play on words in terms of names, is actually number 8 of only 7 leaders of the Roman Empire. Whereas this might of necessity bring the subject of resurrection into the picture, the study of the subject of the beast in chapters 11 and 13 has established that there is no need for that resurrection to reach back into antiquity, so as to bring back one of the ancient Caesars. In fact, that need is expressly precluded. The beast that was, and was not, and yet is, having come out of the abyss only to go into perdition, simply means that he, being the 8th king, is in fact number 7, who will die, will be brought back to life only to see his life take an immediate nosedive with respect to any possibility that he might ever be made righteous in the eyes of God. Whereas the period of the apocalypse is primarily about a last-ditch effort to save the souls of even the worst of sinners, more so than about judgment for judgment's sake, this is one soul for which there will not be the slightest hope once he is killed, fighting the 2 witnesses, enters the abyss, and is resurrected and indwelt by the power of Satan. His name, who is he? As far as personal names go, no one this side of the apocalypse will ever know. The truth is, no one will be able to know who this individual will be, with any real certainty, until he, being the prince from among the people who destroyed Jerusalem and the temple, signs a peace treaty with the Jews 7 years before the end of time. So, first of all, the dangerous wild animal here is the same beast introduced to us in chapter 13, as is true of the woman and the 7 heads of the scarlet beast. So likewise, it is also true that the beast as a whole is symbolic of 2 separate, but inextricably intertwined entities. They are inseparable, insofar as you cannot have one without the other. The first, as has been shown, is the Roman Empire itself. Here, in the verses cited above, the focus is on the leadership of that empire. Hence, the beast here is a secular Roman head of state. Specifically, this leader is the 7th of 8. With regard to his relationship to antiquity, or to anyone in ancient times. His coming is yet future, and he is related to the ancient Caesars only by nationality. The eighth is ruler number 7, resurrected to live as such for only a short time, 3.5 years, as the end times ruler who comes to power transformed from a local personality to a global leader in the form of Daniel's mouthy little horn, aka the prince, and the abomination of desolation, the beast or son of perdition. The identities of the first 5 kings are a given, insofar as the 6th Caesar was on the throne at the time of John's penning of the prophecy. That was Caesar Domitian, until September 18th, AD 96. He was an evil and wicked ruler, somewhat akin to Nero. Some quote Eusebius as stating that it was he who sent John to prison in AD 95. He was replaced by the Emperor Nerva, who is said to have later released John from his imprisonment on the island of Patmos. One, knowing who the Caesar was who held the crown while John penned the revelation, can figure out the previous 5. See sidebar below. The thrust of the prophecy, however, is centered around the 7th, whose coming was set in the distant future. Thus, he is an end-times ruler, not ancient one, having no known roots in antiquity. He will rule for only a short time before giving way to the 8th king. Beyond this revelation, the angel makes no effort to positively ID this creature, in terms of an actual who he is or will be. He does, however, give a few general, but enlightening specifics. Sidebar. The Caesars.
There is said to have been a total of 12 Caesars, the last of them being Domitian, who is responsible for sending John to prison on the island of Patmos. They are as follows.
Caesar Gaius Julius Caesar, dictator 45 through 44 BC. Augustus, Imperator Caesar, Divi Filius. Augustus, 31 BC through AD 14. Tiberius, Tiberius Caesar Augustus, 14 through 37 AD. Gaius Caligula, Gaius Caesar, Augustus Germanicus, 37 through 41 AD. Claudius, Tiberius Claudius Caesar, Augustus Germanicus, 41 through 54 AD. Nero, Nero Claudius Caesar, Augustus Germanicus, 54-68 AD. The Caesars leading up to John's imprisonment. 1. Galba, Servius Galba, Imperator Caesar Augustus, 68 through 69 AD. 2. Otho, Imperator Marcus Otho Caesar, Augustus, 69 AD. 3. Vitellius, Aulus, Vitellius, Germanicus, Imperator Augustus, 69 AD. 4. Vespasian, Imperator, Vespasian Caesar, Augustus, 69 through 79 AD. 5. Titus, Imperator, Titus Caesar, Vespasianus Augustus, 79 through 81 AD. 6. Domitian, Imperator, Caesar, Domitianus. Augustus, 81 through 96 AD. First, he, the beast, is here an individual indeed, not the kingdom or the empire. He is specifically the end times head of state for that kingdom, the crimson-colored beast. Secondly, this individual is or will be by God's reckoning a 7th ruler of Italian descent, but not Nero resurrected, and irrespective of how many kings or Caesars there are in fact, between the 6th and the coming of the 7th, by God's count. In addition, it is this 7th who will be the 8th, not of 8, as rather he is number 8, paradoxically. Of only 7 kings, 5 of whom had already come and gone, one of whom, number 6, was ruling at the time of John's penning of the revelation, that Caesar is said to have been Domitian. The 7th, number 7, had not yet been born, during or before the days of John. While the 8th king, number 8, is indeed one of the seven, the seventh is by no means, apart from nationality, connected to the ancient six. That is, he is not Nero or some other emperor resurrected, as is popularly and erroneously misconstrued. He has no connection to antiquity. None of the former six will be resurrected. It is Emperor number 7 himself, the end-times ruler, who will be killed in battle by God's two witnesses only to be brought back to life and indwelt by the devil, sometime during these last days, in the not-too-distant future. Thus the prophecy concerning the beast, who was and is not, ruler number 8, is one set entirely in the future with respect to John's day. While as of this date, 03/29/2007, he may well be alive, as of that day on the Isle of Patmos, the day of this king number 7 was not to be for another 2,000 years. Verse 8, in that John was told that the dangerous wild animal was and is not, and who will come up out of the bottomless pit, and that people will be awed when they see the beast that, a thing it was and is not, although it is. What on earth does the messenger from God mean? Actually, the angel's meaning is quite simple. The tense of the angel's verbiage, notwithstanding. This is not a reference to any event which was to have happened 2,000 years ago. Instead, John was being given a glimpse of the aftermath of a battle which was to take place somewhere in the middle of the 7-year period we today call the Great Tribulation, the latter 7 years of the apocalypse. In short, it is an allusion to the death, burial, such as there will be, and resurrection of the seventh king or Caesar, who upon his resurrection will transition to become the beast, aka the Antichrist. He will be killed, remain dead long enough to enter the abyss. Then he will be raised again from the dead only to go into perdition, i.e., loss of well-being, or ruin, which is to say, there is no way he can ever be rescued or saved from his sins. The blood of Christ will never cover him. Observe and consider. 8th king of 7 heads, the devil's media blitz. As was seen already, 11:3:12, for the first 3.5 years of the 7 last worst years of the tribulation period, God will dispatch 2 of his choicest prophets to perform a ministry of torment before and upon a yet unbelieving, God-hating, Christ-rejecting world. These prophets will be given great authority and power by God, an authority and a power far greater than those exercised by Moses and Elijah during their respective days, by virtue of the comparably, virtually insurmountable, powerful, and deadly obstacles they will face. In the course of performing their duties, they will encounter and have their work impeded by the Italian prince, who is to become the dangerous wild animal, the same one who is to come up out of the abyss. This man will have been an internationally recognized figure, well in advance of his embrace by the world as its leader and God. During this initial face-to-face confrontation, aimed at bringing an end to what will have been one of several vexing global nightmares, the beast-to-be will not have the power of Satan at his disposal, so that, in his battle with the 2 witnesses, he will, in the end, lose his life. This per the will and plan of God, as per Revelation. 11:5. If any man harms the 2 witnesses, fire will issue from their mouths, killing their assailants. This is the manner of death that must be inflicted upon any who dare to assault them or to impede their ministry. In one way or the other, the inhabitants of the entire world will witness this battle in real time, as it unfolds in all probability in the streets of the city of Rome. This 7th king will no doubt not be left in the streets. He will be mourned and missed for the short period he is out of commission. In the meantime, as the witnesses continue their journey throughout Italy and around the world, tormenting and making godless lives miserable, the entire world of unbelieving, Christ rejectors will without question be very well acquainted with these prophets. Their venomous hatred will demand their deaths by any means possible post-haste. In preparation for the fulfillment of their cries, taking his own plans to thwart the will of God to the next level, angry, having been newly kicked out of heaven permanently after a losing battle to dethrone God, the devil on earth will mount a PR campaign, as it were, wherein he will raise again to life the Roman head of state, number 7, who died earlier fighting the witnesses, bringing him up out of the abyss to which he will have been temporarily assigned, reuniting his body and soul. At that precise moment, the prince will be indwelt by Satan, who will give him life as ruler number 8. After his resurrection, totally committed to the will of the devil, under his influence, the beast will hunt down the witnesses who killed him. Upon finding them in the streets of Jerusalem, he will succeed by Satan's power to overcome and kill them, to the relief and supreme satisfaction of an anxiously watching world. By this act, and to the rhythm of thunderous applause matched only by unbridled screams of joy and wild cheers, the devil will seize the headlines. All moaning and groaning inflicted by God up to this point will be totally muted, as virtually all of godless humanity will be thrown into one euphoric moment of globe-spanning madness. 13.3. King number 7 resurrected will catapult to rock star status, an overnight sensation, as King number 8, the beast who was, is not, and now is. After several days of worldwide revelry, the two witnesses will be brought back to life, awed and shocked, left in a state of terrified disbelief. 3 days of partying, celebrating and feasting over the witnesses' dead bodies will be completely shut down, as they are called back to heaven. Mission accomplished. Their witness and work will have prepped an otherwise unbelieving world for yet another valuable and bountiful harvest of precious souls. This is what the angel had in mind when he spoke to John of the dangerous wild animal who was, meaning he will have existed or lived, who is not, meaning having lived, he will actually, literally die, and who yet is, meaning he will be raised from the dead by the devil himself. God will not do it, but he will allow the devil to do so. Being the false god that he will be, his will be a parody, if you please, a sham and a mockery of the death, burial, and resurrection of the true Christ. Thus, the man, the king who will die is the 7th of the 8 Roman rulers, while the 8th is, in fact, only the 7th resurrected, i.e., rulers number 7 and number 8 are physically the exact same person. He will never have known life prior to the end times. He will not be Nero or any of the ancient rulers of ancient Rome. The kingdom, the beast, renewed. Prologue. Initially, for at least 1/2 of the 3.5 years following his resurrection from the dead, approximately 1.75 years, the beast and his Italian state will have, and they will enjoy full dominion and authority over all the nations of the earth, charmed and gripped by the salvation he will have brought. The entire world of the damned will submit willingly to the demands of his rule, China included, along with Pakistan and India. The core of his kingdom will rest in the landmass that formed the old Roman Empire, divided into 10 separate autonomous states that will not exist, as such, until after he takes charge. Shortly after his acquisition of global power, however, maybe 1.5 to 1.75 years, God's final punitive campaign per the outpouring of plagues from the bowl judgments of chapter 16 will begin. The treaty with the Jews then already broken, his temple desecration exercise having transpired, the Jews in flight for their lives, per chapter 12. Vatican City and the Catholic Church destroyed, the millions upon millions of new converts then dead. No souls will be saved, by virtue of the fact that none will repent. At the same time, catastrophic disruptions and cataclysmic breakdowns in the beast's kingdom will begin, absolutely destroying any hope for peace, economic recovery, or political stability he no doubt will promise. These judgments will totally shatter any confidence and trust the world will have in their new God over the first approximately 1.75 years of his reign, perhaps even within 1 year or less, so as to allow time for the beast to reassemble and reassert himself with whatever support he can muster, so as to confront the storm that will brew in the East, as the sorely disgruntled kings of the East assemble for the final showdown at the Battle of Armageddon. At this juncture, their hopes and aspirations dashed, all will pull away from the beast, realizing, perhaps on the one hand, that though his power is great, his is yet no match for that of the Almighty. To regain control in hope of restoring some semblance of order and confidence, the unholy trinity of the dragon, the devil, the beast, the Italian prince, and the second beast, the false prophet, will each unleash their unclean spirits who will go forth to work miracles before the world's leaders in order to woo, wow, or somehow dazzle and convince, or cajole them to join forces once more with the dangerous wild animal. By and large, this initiative is destined to prove highly successful, globally, except in the East, and 3 of the 10 nations that form the core of his kingdom. The Eastern kings, led most probably by China, will have no part, as rather they will seek to pursue their own agenda in the Middle East at the expense of the beast and his company. Japan and Taiwan will be underwater, along with the British Isles and all other island nations, having been sunk by the mother of all earthquakes. It remains to be seen whether any significant portions of their armies will have gotten out before any of the island nations are sunk in the great earthquake. The way will be made accessible to them when God dries up the Euphrates River, in anticipation of their coming. All bridges and ports associated with the Euphrates will have been knocked out by the earthquake, per Revelation chapter 16. In addition, the Chinese are said to have been building roads toward the Middle East for years. They are purportedly now in India, Pakistan, doing likewise. The 10 kings and the kings of the earth. Verse 12. And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. Verse 13. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Verse 14. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords, and King of kings, and they that are with him are called, and chosen, and faithful. Verse 15. And he said to me, The waters which you saw, where the whore sits, are peoples, and multitudes, and nations, and tongues. That which is the focus of our discussion, however, at this juncture is the 10 horns of the beast. These horns, John was informed, actually represent 10 kings. See also Daniel 7:20, 24, 2:33-35, 41-45. As of the day that this old apostle wrote this work, those kings had no kingdom. The states over which they are to preside did not exist. As such, although the land which they will occupy will have been part of the old Roman Empire, the specific boundaries of their kingdoms have yet to be laid out. Whatever are the lands that will make up that kingdom then, the boundaries will almost most assuredly be redrawn between now and the last 3.5 years of time, if for no other reason than the aftermath of World War III. It appears that some of these 10 kings may be puppet kings, installed in their respective positions of power and authority by the dangerous wild animal himself at the last minute, most willingly give him all of their unbridled, wholehearted support. Verse 14. Actually, 7 will submit to the beast without a fight. The other 3 will have to be subdued by force. Furthermore, these 10 kings are the 10 toes of the statue from Nebuchadnezzar's dream, as interpreted by Daniel, Daniel 2:28 through 45. However strong the bond of the alliance they form, it will be like a mix of clay and iron. It will have many weak links brought on by centuries-old tensions and other unresolvable differences, each determined to maintain as much autonomy and self-governance as possible, while limiting, no doubt, and/or usurping whatever he can from his neighbor. Being a kind of revival of the ancient Roman Empire, it, stand alone, without the beast, will have little strength and no authority comparable to that kingdom. Their bond or the tie that will bind them together will be a last-ditch effort to survive in the face of current and coming ordeals, more than any real desire to set aside past differences in favor of extending any genuine gestures of peace. Verse 16, "And the 10 horns which you saw upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire." Verse 17, "For God has put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled." In keeping with God's solemn desire to see a full end to the great whore, chapter 17, the beast and these 10 kings will share a joint affinity in an unbridled hatred for this breeder of false Christianity. They will throw the weight of all their resources and forces behind the beast, in full support of the drive to bring her down. They will completely destroy her, anything and everything she stands for, take any possessions of value for themselves, then burn whatever is left with fire. In view of the world's hope and trust in the beast, only dry eyes will watch her decimation, this, in stark contrast to the destruction of Babylon the Great, chapter 18. None will mourn at the sight of or over the death of this great whore, nor will any weep over her loss. Verse 14, "These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords, and King of kings, and they that are with him are called, and chosen, and faithful." With the great whore in perpetual ruins, the kings of the East and their vast army soundly defeated, if not destroyed altogether, the 10 kings and the kings of the earth, are they who will be on hand, with and led by the beast, to greet and fight with the Lamb and his armies when he returns to the earth. Insofar as he will be Daniel's stone cut out of a mountain without hand, he will handily smash them without effort, by the word of his mouth, Daniel 2:33-35, 41-45, Revelation chapter 19. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will stop and pick up here next time for yet another edition of the Bible Prophecy Masterclass podcast. Please do make plans to be with us then, when we will continue our discussion of the beast, focusing primarily on his reign, right here with show number 12, episode number 27, based upon Revelation chapter 12, The Woman and the Red Dragon. Also, make sure to inform others about this timely and very necessary study of the book of the Revelation of Jesus Christ. Until we meet again, may the blessing of the good Lord be upon you.